I like the little at the end of that. Hey guys, welcome to What's Happening in Central Oregon. This is our every 2-week podcast that we run here, talking about all things Central Oregon, from recreation, real estate, but specifically more about development and kind of economic and kind of business news, stories that you may have missed over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Important local news.
Yeah.
Hot topics.
Exactly. So welcome everybody for kind of tuning in today. And what are we going to talk about? You want me to tell?
You should start.
I should probably talk. Yeah. All right. So let's see. The first thing we're going to talk about, actually maybe in no particular order, just the things that we're going to talk about today include the feds actually sending $32 million to the city of Bend for the new Reed Market Railroad crossing. That's a lot of money. But don't worry, they're going to spend it wisely. And and so that's going to be a really interesting thing to talk about later. Along that same kind of thread, we also have money for the new Hawthorne bridge that they want to put over the parkway.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that last time. I think we touched on it.
We might have touched on it. That one's going to be kind of interesting, I think, because we've recently heard, kind of online, there's been some chatter on what people think about that.
Yeah.
Also, let's see the development that we're going to talk about this week. Every week we try to talk about some sort of actual development, like moving dirt, a developer, a neighborhood. This is actually a big
place where you can live.
A place where you can live, because this is, kind of partly a real estate channel. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Bend Village. Do you have any idea about what that is?
A little bit. I know the vicinity of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's going to be news to me, too.
It's going to be news to you. We're also talking about the High Desert Museum and how they have just received $240,000 in grant money.
I love the High Desert Museum.
Oh, and also the biggest, probably the biggest news of the last couple of weeks is a new Oregon wildfire hazard map has been released. And there's a lot of talk about that. It actually kind of released kind of quietly. There hasn't been as much of an uproar as there was a couple of years ago when it came out the first time. But
it's a really touchy subject right now.
Yes,
with all the fires that are happening, and that's an interesting one. I
agree. And so I'm really excited to jump into that one. We'll jump in that one a little bit later on in the show. And then the last thing we want to talk about, I think this is really, really interesting.
That is right up with striking gold.
Researchers find a huge buried reservoir atop the Oregon Cascade mountain range. Was it 4 times that would Crater Lake?
Something like that. Is huge. It's
there
massive.
Is so much water. We're in a high desert, right? There's so much water. They found 4x Crater Lake in the mountains. Just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and hit back and talk about our first topic of the day. So also for anybody watching right now, first of all, feel free to throw in where you're watching from on the chat. Throw in where you're watching from. If it's here locally, maybe what side of town, what neighborhood, whatever have you. If you're from out of the area, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to see that. Let's go ahead and talk about our first story. So feds send $32 million. Let's pull up the screen here. Boop. Nope, that's not the right one. Boop. There we go. Feds sent $32 million for Reed Market Railroad crossing. It's expected to cover the project. What do you know about the railroad project?
I've heard about it. We actually have clients that live very, very close to that. And it is one reason why they are currently looking for a new property. Because the train, you can hear the train through all of Bend. Depending on where you live, it's just how loud. And whether or not, if you're at an intersection, whether or not they honk the horn.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I was like, how loud is it? And how often? And he's like, oh, it's like 3 times a day. And he's near an intersection, so he hears the horn. So at 2:00 in the morning, you hear the horn.
I mean, I hear the horn too, and we're nowhere near it. I think everybody in Bend hears the horn, but it's like
how loud
the train itself.
But it's also really interesting because we've also sold homes to people that they're like, That's nothing. I live next to a 6-lane highway.
Yeah.
You know, in LA.
A freeway.
You know,
Train's
it's
nothing.
I guess I should say freeway versus highway. I'm small town. And you know, and their level of tolerance for noise is completely different.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the person, but I understand Reed Market has become a very congested through street.
Yeah, that's the thing. Really, is that particular train crossing. Right?
It backs it all. It
backs up traffic for 20 minutes. I mean, it backs it all the way, both directions. You can't get through. It's completely cluttered. It's a big problem.
I think like a couple blocks down the road, they have like they stop the train and they change. Like, I think they unhook cards or something. It's I don't know.
A transfer station.
A transfer station. Yeah, that's the right word. So that could be another reason why that is really congested there, because I mean, we have to cross on Butler Market, cross the train tracks, and the train goes through and it's quick. So it also depends on where you're at.
So this is projected to be a $40 million project, and it was actually there was actually a voter-approved 2020 transportation general obligation bond that really kind of got this thing kicked off. So, 4 or 5 years ago, they said, hey, should we support putting this crossing in here? And the voters said yes. Yeah. And so, but it's a $40 million project, and we don't just have $40 million lying around. So the Fed is actually stepping up. The Department of Transportation is infusing $32 million into this $40 million project. So it looks like it's a go. Now it's still going to take quite a while for this to, happen. I mean, they are still looking at the design phase, and construction is set to begin probably in 2027. So 2 more years from now. Yeah. And it'll probably take a year or two to actually, complete. Yeah. Now, we had a discussion yesterday about this. I'm embarrassed to say this because I wasn't thinking about it. Wasn't thinking about it right way. When I read the story, I thought that they were going to that the cars were going to go under the train, and then the train was going to go over. But now that I think about it, I have never seen a train go up a ramp and over and back down. So that was silly of me to think. They are going to build a bridge for the cars to go over.
It's easier to make cars over, because the train, I mean, you can stop us peasants in cars for years and make us reroute. You can't reroute a train.
Yeah. So exactly. So they're going to they had 2 different options, whether they're going to go under the tracks and basically do a tunnel underneath, or they're going to do bridge over. There was a meeting, a city council meeting or whatever. They were talking about options. The public was weighing in. It turns out they didn't really care what the public says. They're going to go over the train tracks there. So that's coming up again in the next couple of years. All right. So that's interesting. That's a really good thing. Again, piggybacking onto that, another city improvement project, and this one has brought up a ton of, I don't know, kind of some feelings, some angst. And even, I'm actually curious to see your reaction too, because I've got my opinions here. City of Bend chooses the Hawthorne Bridge design. Now, the Hawthorne Bridge, if you don't know, there's a road there. It's kind of, from 3rd Street into downtown Hawthorne. It goes, what they wanted to do is go over the Parkway and back into downtown. That gives everybody who's on that side of town, who's kind of on that east side of town, access to the west side of town, access to downtown. And they're going to do a pedestrian bridge. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about that?
We love to do things pretty here. Like, if we're going to do a building, we're going to do it gorgeous. Have you seen our public library that's being built? Mm-hmm. So I can't imagine what kind of bridge they picked.
Well, yeah, they picked the what is it called? Oh, here, I got let me throw the photo up there. This is the this is the bridge. It's a single tower cable design. And I was driving, this is what's funny. I was driving the other day on the Parkway right there. You can actually tell right there. That's like where like Beacon Appraisal is. There's the off ramp right there. Mm-hmm. You got to be looking at it.
Well, this is where the old Lechois building.
Yes.
So this is going to be.
It's actually going to be a massive condo project.
Yeah. What is that called again?
I can't remember the platform.
the platform.
Something like that, I think.
Something like that.
We'll talk about that one of these episodes, I'm sure.
I think we did a couple podcasts when they were getting their tax rebate.
So this is going to be a massive bridge. That was the thing that that kind of struck me. It's not going to be one of those tiny little things. It's like, oh, it's a little bridge, like maybe in Vegas, you know, those little bridges, those little walking bridges across. It's going to be bigger than that. It's going to be huge.
Bridge.
Look at this thing. It's got a sail on it. This thing is going to be massive. And so the thing is that they picked this design. And of course, of the 4 designs that they had to choose from, this one's the most expensive. Does that shock you?
Only by a little bit, right?
Only by a little bit. You're right. True story. It was like between $35 and $37 million. There's only $2 million more. But this is going to be basically a $35 million bridge for people to walk across. They want to connect Bend. They want to connect the east and the west side. There's this big parkway running through the middle of it. That's creating a problem for people to walk. You can cross at Franklin. You can cross at Greenwood. But this is just another way for people to, you know, be able to get over into downtown. Here's my problem with this.
Oh.
Where does it say? Does it say it? No, it doesn't say it here. It says it on the City of Bend website. But they're actually going to close the Hawthorne exit.
Oh.
Like the Parkway exit. Now, look, both ways. I say it both ways. One way, it's a terrible exit. There's not much of a queue up.
No.
If you're on Hawthorne trying to get on the Parkway, turning right, oh my gosh, it's like a gauntlet. You just have to.
Well, because that Colorado exit is so close that it kind of slows everybody down, and it kind of gets very congested.
But there's no merge time either. You just have to get on and blast, right?
Yeah.
Like Teslas do really well. But everybody else, oh my gosh. But at the same time, you know, we're spending $40 million for people to walk downtown, and we're eliminating car traffic. I mean, I know that's what the city wants, but we're taking away opportunities for people to get downtown in their car. Like if that was an exit that I did every day, I would have to continue to go down the next one, which is going to create more congestion on the next road down, which would be Colorado, or the one ahead of that.
And they're also congesting Greenwood too. They're taking more lanes away from Greenwood to go downtown for bike lanes.
Exactly.
So this is interesting.
Yeah. And again, this is a long ways down the road too, as far as the.
I do think the Hawthorne and I want to say the Lafayette does create some issues on the Parkway, which I understand stopping those. But also, when you're in the middle of town and you want to get to the Parkway, there's only so many on-ramps.
Yeah, it's hard to get
connect.
there.
So it kind of, I see it both ways. I see having them and I see the taking away.
The Colorado Parkway exit, right?
Oh, it's always backed up.
Like 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock. Oh my gosh. Like I'm all the way.
So-called.
We're not really complaining about traffic here in Bend,
Yeah,
are we?
exactly. Let's have some perspective.
Ask somebody
here,
from California about it.
Yeah. Our rush hour, supposedly.
All right. So again, look, for them picking the design with the most money, it's going to look spectacular, and it's going to add a really cool aesthetic, I think, to Bend. I think it will look really cool. I admit, I think it'll look really cool. It just baffles me that the city's trying to move away from having traffic downtown, which again I also understand, but it's like we're spending $40 million for people to walk there, and we're taking away people's opportunities to actually drive there. So, in either case, again, money has been set aside for this Hawthorne Bridge, and it looks like $32 million has already been granted. And it looks like the bridge is expected to begin in 2026.
In 2027.
And conclude in 2027.
Okay, so Reed Market is going to be, there's just a lot of construction going on.
Yeah, Ben's growing up big time. Big time, big time. All right. That's the Hawthorne Bridge. Let's see what else we got here. we're doing it in a different order, but I like this order. Let's talk about the development of the week, right?
All right.
So,
we need like a little intro.
You're right. We could do that. We'll set that up in the future. The development of the week. Let's talk about Bend Village. What an obvious name. What a random name. What an obvious name. So this is actually a really old story. This is from 2022, but it's funny. There's not a whole lot of information I could actually find on this. There just isn't a whole lot of information on it yet. Not. But building is going on.
Yeah.
You tell me about what you know. Tell me about what you know. I got to pull something up.
I already told you on the intro. I don't know a lot about this one because, like you said, there's not a lot of information about it.
Right.
You can definitely see it being built, and it is in a highly visible area. So, what do you know, John?
I'm going to pull. Well, I was just going to say, don't mind me for a second. I'm going to pull up where this actually is on my handy dandy little tool here. I'll show this. I'll go ahead and show this. It's a little website shortcut I have. Boop. And then what I do here, and this is how we're going to look at a lot of these in the future. Planning status. I can go in and see the plans of this particular thing. And so I'm going to go and do the Bend Village overall site plan here. Pull this up. This is really interesting. Here's what we have. Don't show this again. So this is, again, let's go back to what we're talking about. This is above. This is the Bill Healy Bridge right here. If you see this.
Farewell Bend Park.
Farewell Bend Park. Yeah, they just put in a really cool, this is an old photo, but they put in a really cool new splash pad right here down at the bottom on the west side of the river.
There's the new sand beach?
There's a new access point there that's pretty cool. But then up on that rock bluff there's a lot of land. It's actually more land than most people realized. And now that you kind of drive by there's a ton of construction going on the top of it. And so people have been asking me, what is going on up there? So I had to take a look. I drove over there. It appears to be condos. And that's exactly what we have. So it's 7 buildings. It's actually huge. It's 250,000 square feet of building space. And these are the plans. Where's my little, I'm trying to show this. If you're watching this, I'm showing it. If you're not, you're just hearing me make noises. So we've got all of these buildings here that are right along the bluff. Now there's going to be condos, retail, restaurants, probably a lot of condos, and actually also a hotel site as well. So there's going to be lots of people there. I've never stood there.
That's a great place for a hotel, especially like a boutique type hotel. Because you're right there in the old mill area.
You're right in the old mill.
You can walk to the amphitheater. We do have the other hotels that are above the old mill, but it's a good spot.
It's an incredible spot. Actually, if you think about it, you're kind of on that central area where, like, if you head west, you go to the mountain. If you head along the Highway Lakes back towards the north, you're heading towards like Galveston and that whole corridor. And then if you head further, I guess it would be to the east, you're heading right down into Deschutes Brewery, then into the old mill. Well, there's the old mill first, then there's Deschutes Brewery, the Pavilion, the Whitewater Park. Like, you're right there in the middle of all of it. Not to mention you're perched up above, the Deschutes River, Farewell Bend Park.
Yeah.
I bet the sunsets and the sunrises are going to be absolutely spectacular from this area. Again, condos.
More condos.
They don't historically sell super well here, but
I get condos and the appeal of it, especially if you want like a second home or something like that, and you're not going to have all of your toys. Maybe you're just going to, house your 2 e-bikes and a set of skis and a set of cross-country skis. I get the appeal to it, but I just don't. I think what it always comes down to is how much extra the HOA is on it. I've seen
for sure, right?
HOAs is $600, $800, $1,200. It's an additional fee that, is hard to stomach, especially if it's like a second home or something.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm kind of excited for the retail that's coming in there.
More restaurants.
that might be kind of fun. It actually even looks like there's going to be a road in here, like right here. So there's going to be building space right here on the bluff. This looks like a staircase is going to take you down. Oh shoot, I'm not even showing that. It looks like this is going to be a building or a road right through here, right? And then there's going to be building B, C, and D right here with looks like some sort of staircase that'll take you down to the river, which would be really cool.
So the condos are going to be set back a little bit.
Well, these could be condos also. I don't really know. These probably would be condos.
Mm-hmm.
But then we've got building F right here, and then a parking garage. This is all in phase 2, and then phase 3. This is going to be a really big and interesting area, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually really fascinating. So if you didn't know about Bend Village, that's what it is. I think this thing is really fascinating. I can't wait to see it finished. Again, I'm not going to buy a condo, but A, more housing is good, and B, the hotel and the restaurants and the retail they're bringing to that little chunk of land right there, I think it's going to look and be a really cool addition to that little nugget of town right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your favorite?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
High Desert Museum.
Mm-hmm. Why do you like it?
So we have the yearly membership, and I take my kids there every single time when they're bored and they don't want to, they get home. We only have a couple hours. We go to the High Desert Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to go 6 times a year just to make sure the membership pays for itself. But they have not gotten tired of the High Desert Museum.
No.
We might have gotten tired of the High Desert Museum as far as going, but it's beautiful. It's a wonderful place to go and walk and get out.
Yeah.
And it's got good food. I didn't know that was going to be
Can
a
you
plus.
believe that?
Yeah. What is it? The blueberry goat cheese salad is amazing there. And
she loves it.
It's so silly. But I mean, the kids love the animals. They learn something new every time we go there. And I just enjoy it. And they just got a $240,000 grant, which is great.
Yep. It's from the National Endowment for the Humanities. And actually, here's what's interesting. It's 2 different grants. It's not just one, it's 2 different grants, and they're for different things. So one is for $140,000, and that's to support a video story gathering initiative that will bring together like 30 different long-form interviews from residents across the high desert, ranging from ranchers to tribal members. It's basically a thing that they're going to have. They're going to put these grants. They have to do the specific thing with them. They can't just be like, oh, we need a new roof.
Yeah.
We're going to take this and make a new roof. They're going to use it for these specific purposes. So they're going to interview, 30 different long form interviews from residents that have impact on the high desert. They're going to talk about it. It's going to be, an informative, they'll probably make some sort of an exhibit out of it, kind of a thing.
I love their exhibits.
Yeah, of course. Right.
I mean, they're just super interesting, anywhere from like artwork to their Sasquatch one. The wolf one was super interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just,
and they change them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They change them more often than you would expect, than you would assume. Exactly. So the other one is a $90,000, almost $100,000 grant that is for a new prototype immersive website. So they're going to create a new website or have a new web presence.
How much is that?
It's almost $100,000. It's $90,000. So that's going to be a really expensive website, probably. But I mean, again, when you kind of go to the website, it's like, it's all right, whatever. Then when you get there, you're like, oh, this place is pretty cool.
I was there 2 weekends ago, I think, and they have a brand new play area for kids that they're building.
Oh yeah.
Which is a new interactive area. So when you leave and go on their little trails, they have a whole area that's going to be opened for new playground.
Oh, cool.
Some of the things that we've actually partaked in is the High Desert Museum has really cool youth camps during the summer.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And all through the summer, and the kids get to stay at the High Desert Museum and go, learn things anywhere between bugs to animals to, history, that kind of stuff. But they spend all day like they're little volunteers at the High Desert Museum, and it's super fun.
It is. Our kids love it for sure.
I don't know. Camps with kids during the summer is a hot topic for families, getting into camps, all of that kind of stuff. Cause you got to keep them busy. So. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. Here's another thing that's actually interesting. This isn't the only time this has happened where they've gotten a grant. They actually do get grants all the time. Back in 2024, they provided a $500,000 grant towards the museum's revitalization of its permanent exhibit dedicated to the indigenous cultures of the region. So, the one where you're kind of walking through
Mhm.
and, there's that, I think it's all the way down, like first left, all the way down and then back, and then you go back around. That's probably it. But they got $500,000 to help revitalize that one.
Mhm.
Sometimes their wax figures get a little tired. And then back in 2019, they were awarded $45,000 to support the planning of the renovation. So they've got over, and then another $500,000 in 2023 to support the associated expansion of the museum. So bring the total commitment to the museum's expansion and renovation plans to over $1 million.
Wow.
Without this 240 here. So
they have a really good grant writer.
That's what I was kind of thinking. Exactly. But again, it's one of the only museums that we have in the area and all over even on the West Coast, anywhere that has to deal with a high desert.
Mm-hmm. So
it's an important resource that we have that obviously we love going to. Here's a little secret. I got to say this.
What?
You're going to laugh this is where I'm going.
Is it one of my secrets?
No. They've got this little creek. There's this water that goes through it all the time. Nobody knows this. Most people don't know this. If you look really carefully in this tiny little creek that's only this wide, there's fish in there.
Yeah. We have to count the fish every single time.
Yeah, we go because we know. We go and we're looking for these little brook trout. I think they stock them, but they're just they're little brook trout that big. You're like, I could step over this. This is a storm drain, like runoff. It's that small. There's fish in there. It's pretty cool. I get a kick out of it. I make the kids look for them. Or what I'll do is I'll find a bug and I throw it in there and the fish like literally eat it. I'm a nerd. Okay. Moving on. This is the hot button topic here. Let's see, where are we at?
Tuesday right here.
Hot topic. Is it a Tuesday? It is Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday.
The wildfire hazard map.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what the map looks like. That's just a video. Sorry, that's not really what it is. We actually have the interactive map. I'm going to go ahead and click this, and we'll see what happens. It's going to pull it up. Tell us what the deal is with the wildfire map. Can you give us a little history background on it?
I don't know if I'm going to have all my points correct. Like 2022?
Oh, yeah. I got show notes. Here we go. Let's take this. Let's go to wildfire. Okay, cool.
Yeah. 2022, they released a map, and it sent everybody all up into a huff because they thought that's what they were basing insurance prices off of.
Exactly.
And they're not allowed to, correct? Right. And yeah. So it's super interesting. People that, whether they say they can or they cannot with insurance, the insurance companies have their own maps. Mm-hmm. And they were also raising premiums
like crazy because of the 2020 fire.
Yes.
And so this map comes out 2 years later and everyone's like, hey, you can't raise my rates because of this dumb map. Mm-hmm. And so actually, which is funny, Oregon Senate actually passed a bill, Oregon Senate Bill 82, that prohibits insurance companies from using this map or the first edition of this map, the map in general, to base their insurance rates off. Again, a total kind of misinformation on this thing is like they don't use this map. They have their own maps.
I mean, regardless, like natural disasters have been happening. Insurance companies across the board are raising their premiums. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially, we have the LA fires right now, mm-hmm. but we've also had our own fires here in Oregon, more than we'd like to say, mm-hmm. And that's affecting insurance companies and what their premiums and their costs are across the board. So, I mean, we've had people, in certain mm-hmm. areas when you're buying, especially when we're representing you, we tell you, please go check how much it's going to cost to insure this property. Yeah. We've had people that want to buy a cabin along a river that has wood siding and it's a fire zone floodplain because it's next to the river and
it's prone to both fire and flood.
Yeah. And the wood siding makes it even more insurable. And so they have to go and look for insurance companies that will insure it. Now, is that everywhere in Central Oregon? No. But certain areas, it is a hot topic to look into first.
So when this map first came out, the whole deal is that we already talked about it. Everybody thought this is what they were going to base the insurance rates off of. And if you look at the map, we're hosed. Look at that. Everything's red or really red or purple or orange, whatever the color is. obviously we know we're in kind of a high risk area.
I love how Portland and Salem are green.
This is like the only areas, right? The only areas. So if we're looking at it here,
oh, Bend's
got a little green to it, right?
Mhm.
So here's actually the way this works. This map came out back in 2022. Big uproar because it was a little bit worse than this. Like there was more areas that were more
red.
fire. It was more red,
Mhm.
right? And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is outrageous. You can't say, I live in the center of Bend and you're saying I'm a high risk fire zone. And so they went back to the drawing board and they redid this. Now they didn't change much of it. I think they said they changed it like 6%, something like that. And it wasn't very much. But now they've re-released this. But here's what what does this map actually mean?
Mm-hmm.
What it actually means is it's a map that identifies, properties. It actually, the provisions, you're right, it was 6%. I'm looking at my notes now. 2 years later, and a new Oregon law that has passed, we're ready for the new version. The provisions impact 6% of the state's roughly 1.9 million tax lots. So here's what it's going to do. It basically just means that if you're in a high fire risk zone, that the building codes are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So the building codes are going to change for people that live in these high risk areas. So instead of building, a straw house,
a log cabin
in the middle of high fire zone, you're probably going to have either further, defensible space. You're going to have like landscaping requirements that don't allow for trees to be right nearby you. Mm-hmm. And then building materials will either have to be heavily fire resistant or even fireproof. This map is really about is just making sure that, people's houses aren't burned if and when a fire does happen.
Yeah.
Fires are going to happen. We can't stop fires always. And, as long as your structure is fire hardened, then that's going to be better for everybody. But
a lot of that comes down to just maintaining your property too, and making sure all of the brush and stuff is not touching your house. And, so if it does break out, like there's certain areas outside, like to the east, that there's no fire hydrant anywhere close to those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And to get those insured is a little bit higher, but also making sure that they're built properly. Because like if you look at Tree Farm, you look at Discovery West, all of those neighborhoods have built it with these rules in mind to make it a fire-wise community.
Fire-wise communities, yep.
Because they realize that they're on the edge of Bend. And
this is probably going to happen.
Yeah. The reason why we have those properties, like Tethrow, is because of fire. So
yeah. So again, I find this really interesting. I know that there was a massive uproar before, and the majority of the uproar was basically saying that they thought that this had to do with the insurance rates. Insurance companies don't care about a map. They're going to look at their own. They're going to do their own due diligence. They've got their own maps that they've been working on. This has only been around now at this point, it's only been around for 2 weeks. But even 2 years ago, when they put out the first edition of it, it had only been around for a couple of years. Insurance companies have had their own maps forever, right? That's how they calculate their own risk, right? So yeah, this map doesn't mean nearly as much as I think that everyone thought it did when it first came out. But they have made revisions to it. They have kind of tempered it down a little bit so it doesn't make everything look like it's going to explode.
Yeah.
Sometimes those fire like little scores that you see on the internet when you're looking at a house.
Yeah.
It's like, this is an extreme fire zone.
Our house is apparently an extreme fire zone.
Yeah.
And
I don't know about that.
Fire hydrant right out in front of our house. Like
that's right. Exactly. So anyway, that's pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of drama about this particular topic, and I'm kind of glad.
It's a hot topic, though. It is a very viral topic right now.
I see what you did there. All right. Last story of the day. Then we got to run. This one is crazy interesting. Look, we live in a high desert.
This is right up there with the geothermal thing.
I love the geothermal. We're going to talk about geothermal next week, too. I'm sure we are. In 2 weeks. We're going to have to. It's so cool. But this is the other thing.
We should go film the torch.
Let's go up there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Off geothermal. Let's go back to the water.
Focus.
We have found, researchers have found more water here in the region than we need. We're in a desert. We need water all the time. Like the city of Bend is literally paying people to xeriscape their yard to save water. And then we find the equivalent of 4 crater lakes full of water deep in the mountains of the Cascade Mountains.
Yeah, how do you do that?
I don't know.
How do they find that? Like, it's,
I don't know.
you know, like one of those like heat detectors the inspectors use, or the water detectors. Like, how do you do that? Like,
oh man. So this to me is wild. According to a new study published earlier this month, at least 81 cubic kilometers of active groundwater is currently stored at the Cascade Range crest in an area near the Santiam Pass. That's more than 4 times the capacity of Crater Lake, which holds approximately 18.7 cubic kilometers of water. Woof. That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
One of the stories I was watching, actually, I think it was on the news. They were so funny on the interview because they were like,
rich now.
well, yeah, of course, Oregon is rich with water now, and obviously the governments and the water resource people and the powers that be are going to have to figure out how we're going to manage that, if we're going to be able to access that, if we're going to be able to tap into that, or if we're just going to let it sit there forever. But then it was funny that, they get all environmentally responsible about it. Like, well, I don't know if we could use it all up.
Impact everything else if we tap into that.
Yeah. Which is a very valid question, of course. But can we have a little bit? It's just to ease.
Our snowpack's pretty good this year. We don't need to be tapping into that.
We probably don't.
Yeah.
But to know that we have it.
Yeah.
Is just, it warms my heart.
Oh.
We have the water.
Yeah.
We may or may not ever need to touch it. You're right. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. But it's there. Like, what kind of economic security is that for the region?
Yeah.
That is what I am super excited about, because I'm a part of the government affairs committee with the Central Oregon Association of Realtors. It's actually East Cascades Realtors now. But one of the things that we heard about last year was the city of Redmond.
Oh, this is true.
Is looking for more water. They're growing. They need more water. And there's literally like the Oregon Agency for Water is like, yeah, you don't need more. We can't give you any more.
They stop a lot of developments because of how are they going to supply the water to these big neighborhoods?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now we have water.
We have a giant aquifer.
We got more water than we know what to do with. We might have more power than we know what to do with this geothermal thing.
I know.
Central Oregon is going to explode. It's
pretty cool.
Guys, what are your thoughts? I mean, about anything. Leave them in the comments. Leave them about Hawthorne, the railroad, Bend Village, High Desert Museum. We want to know your thoughts. The Bend Fire map. What do you think about this massive aquifer?
Yeah. Or do you believe that downtown Bend needs more parking spots? Or do we need to just have a walkable downtown?
Yep.
Like, that's another thing that they talk about, like just taking all the part.
We've got a story on that one.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that one. Am I jumping ahead?
We'll save it for next week.
We'll save it for next week.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Oh, I was on that for a little bit too long. Let me come over here. Boom. Back to us. Hey. All right. So let's go ahead and wrap up this episode, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I guess we'll do our normal little spiel at the end. If you or someone you know is looking to buy or sell real estate here in Central Oregon, we'd love to be your local real estate resource of choice.
Absolutely.
You can always go check out our website at cromrealestate.com. And again, if there are stories that you want to know about, or if there's a chunk of land that you want to know about around Bend, what's going on? In fact, I know what we're doing next week already.
I think it's funny because you have your podcast voice and then you have your YouTube voice. This is his podcast voice.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Sorry.
Sounds good to me.
Squirrel.
Again, thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you over in the next episode. Cheers.